Part 4. With Oda Nobunaga. In May 1534, Oda Nobunaga took over from Oda Nobuhide, the local lord of Oware. Born as a child, his father Nobuhide was from the Oda Yamata no Kame family. It was a branch of the Oda family. The family was known as the Three Kyoshi Magistrates, and the power rapidly expanded during Nobuhide's time. Nobunaga was given Nagano Castle, which had been captured by Nobuhide early on and became the lord of the castle. Since he was a child, he had many eccentric behaviors, and those around him called him the big boy. In 1547, he made his first appearance in a skirmish with the Imagawa family. The following year, peace was established with the Doshon Sato, a Shingo feudal lord of Mino province, who had been hostile to his father Nobuhide, and as proof of this, Doson's daughter Nohame was married to Nobunaga. After the death of his father Nobuhide, Nobunaga took over the leadership of the Odo Namasada family and destroyed the Odo no Kame family and the Odo Isekakame family of the Aware Shugo, and also eliminated his younger brother Nobuyuki Oda, gradually gaining control of the Owari province. In 1570, Oda Nobunaga sent troops to attack the Asakura family in Isen, but was betrayed by his sister-in-law, Ase Nagasame, and fell into a difficult situation. In June, Nobunaga narrowly escaped the crisis and won a battle against Asakura and Azai families. From here, they faced a tough battle against the Asakura family in Isen and Azai family in Kataome. The Mishiyoshi family in Shikoku Ishiyame Honba Ji Temple of Osako and Shiayaki Ji Temple with Mount Hii, and that year, peace was concluded with various powers through the mediation of Shogun Yoshike and Ishikage and Emperor Omogatsu. However, the following year, Nobunaga's relationship with Oshikage Ishikage, whom he had supported, began to deteriorate. Yoshiki began to take an anti-Nobunaga stance and urged powerful daimyo from all over the country to move to Kyoto. Akide Shingen of Ka responded with this request in 1573. Akide Shingen died of illness, and after that the Oda army was defeated by the Takeda army led by Katsuri. But the alliance of anti-Nobunaga forces collapsed. Nobunaga attacked Kariaki-ji Temple on Mount Hai and completely burned it down. He also sent troops to attack Asakura and Asai families in Ichen and destroyed the Asakura families in August of Megamashi Ase in September. In the same year, they expelled Yoshiki Ishikage from Kyoto, bringing an end to the Murashi shogunate. However, a number of anti-Nobunaga forces remained in various regions, and in 1674, Nobunaga himself led troops to attack and completely destroyed the Ichitin Ikoku, Ikiki. The following year, he also destroyed the Nagashima Ikoku Ichiji. In 1575, the Oda army, led by his eldest son Nobutade, defeated the Takeda army, led by Katsuyori in the Battle of Nagashino, and thus the momentum of the Takeda army declined. And after that, he attacked various places in Chubu and Tsunki regions, and Nobunaga's power rapidly expanded, and also actively conducted diplomacy with foreign countries, and in 1576, he built Yuchi Castle on the shores of Lake Ibawa. He also supported the development of the Gushu and Mikiyoshi markets there, invited many skilled craftsmen from Sakai, and worked on establishing a Rakusei system focusing on the development of the economy and culture. Furthermore, Nobunaga promoted the introduction of Christianity, accepted foreign priests, and received letters of credence from the King of Portugal and the Viceroy of India. He died at the event known as the Hononoji incident, June 21st, 1582. More on this later. Excuse me for hacking them names up, but this Japanese, well, it's hard on the tongue. But anyways, you could see here that Nobunaga OG, he come from OGs. He calls them killers. He's not, it's war. So to say he's nice and kind, I mean, it's war season, and he was attacking people. People were attacking him. It was back and forth. It was mafia season in Japan right now. And he got down. He was a killer. He took people down and he smashed them totally. So just to know about Lord Nobunaga, he was definitely pretty much the unifier of Japan. Even though he passed, he was the one who took over the most provinces and came together. It's just he himself, he didn't hold on to power properly. And we can talk about the example of his life later. It's the Takeda clan. On April 12, 1573, Takeda Shinjin died while returning home from Higashi Nakawa, Kukai. His fourth son, Katayashori Takeda, succeeded him. Originally, Katsuri was the Takeda clan, but as the heir of his mother's Shoei clan, a member of the Shoei Goro clan. However, in 1565, Shinjin's eldest son, Yasunobu Takeda, was disinherited because he was suspected of rebellion, and his other brothers had either become priests or had died, so Katsuri suddenly became his successor. The Takeda vassals opposed this. The person who was supposed to be a vassal ended up becoming the head of the Takeda clan. So it doesn't feel good for this reason. Shinjin made Katsuri's son, Nabukatsui Takeda, the official heir, and appointed Katsuhuri as the guardian as successor until the young Katsuri grew up. Shinjin's will also clearly state that Katsuri is Jindai, or guard. In such a situation, Katsuri took over the headship of the family, but the discord with his vassals continued and he was unable to fully control the whole family. In order to unite the Takeda clan, show off his power, and force them to obey, Katsuri invaded the surrounding countries. They showed great success by capturing 18 castles of Oda's side in Higashi Mino. One notable example of Takeda Katsuri's success is the Battle of Pakita Injin. In May 1574, when he attacked Kakeka-jin Castle in Toyotomi province, which was ruled by Tokugawa clan. Originally, Takeda Shinjin and Nobunaga had a friendly relationship. The Takeda relationship can also be seen from the fact that Nobunaga's adopted daughter was married to Katsunori. However, as a result of Nobunaga's burning of Irikangareji Temple on Mount Hai and Yakushi as Sakabi siege of Nobunaga, the two sides gradually came to part of it. Katsuri followed in his footsteps and repeatedly invaded Oda and Tokugawa's territories. One of them was Takikenjin Castle. Now Katsuri attacked Takikenjin Castle with a large army of 25,000 men. And this time, the lord of Takiken Castle was Nukapawi Akakasori with about 1,000 soldiers. Due to the overwhelming difference in military strength, Tokugawa Ieyasu requested reinforcements from Nobunaga, but it was not received in the time, and Takikenjin Castle succumbed to the fierce attack. The Takeda clan territory expanded to an all-time high, and if things continued like this, the Tokugawa clan will also be destroyed. However, the direction of the wind changed drastically with the Battle of Nokushino that occurred in May of 1575. The Battle of Nokushino was a battle in which Katsuri attacked Nakushino Castle to subjugate Santohonashi and Thandamasi Okundorari, who had betrayed the Takeda clan and joined the Tokugawa clan. The Takeda clan army numbered 15,000, and in response, Tokugawa Ieyasu requested reinforcements from Oda Nobunaga. The time by which their reinforcements arrived and the 38,000 Oda Tokugawa combined army defeated the Takeda army. Hakakenjin Castle, with no hope of reinforcements from Katsuri Motonobu Okokare, who had defended Hakatajim Castle, sent a letter to Tokugawa Sao in January 1581, pleading for his life. However, Nobunaga was consulted by Ieyasu and refused. If Katsuri sent out reinforcements, it would be a chance to crush them, and if he couldn't send out reinforcements, he thought it would be a chance to undermine the prestige of the Takeda clan, saying Katsuri abandoned Takeda-jin Castle. Takata in Jin Castle suffered from severe hunger, resulting in many deaths from starvation. Unable to endure it anymore, Matanorobu and his friends marched out of the castle with over 700 castle soldiers and were defeated in a fierce battle. Takeda Katsuri's prestige had suffered, and some of the Takeda clan senior retainers defected to the Oda side. Moreover, Katsuyori built the new castle and Shimpu Castle in Yamashita. The headquarters had been relocated due to the lack of defense capabilities of Patsugawa Kasukan and the control of Takeda territory. But due to the construction of Shimpu Castle and the successive dispatch of troops, Katsuri decided to impose a considerable annual tax on the people of the territory. This became a major factor in the loss of public interest for Katsuri. One of the military commanders who defected to the Oda side was Yoshima Chisu. He was the military commander who served the Takeda clan since the time of Takeda Shinjin, and his legal wife was Takeda Shinjin's daughter, Mariami. He was Katsuri's younger brother-in-law. Bushimasa Kisi effected to the Oda side in January 1582. When Katsuri learned of this, he became very angry and executed Yoshima's mother, concubine, and children who had been kept to his hostages by crucifixion at Shimpu Castle. Furthermore, he dispatched the subjugation army led by his cousin Nobuyoto Takeda to Castle Valley, and he himself set out with 10,000 troops and entered Chugata Ohei Castle. Meanwhile, Oda Nobunaga also decides to subjugate Katsuri, organizes an army and sends it to the front. Thus began the Koshu conquest, which ended in February 10th year of Tenshu and led to the destruction of the Takeda clan. Morindo Nishi, who protected Taketo Castle, was Takeda Shinjin's fifth son and Katsuri's half-brother. Morinobu and his friends barricaded themselves at Takato Castle with about 3,000 soldiers, and the Oda army led by Mipado Oda surrounded them, about 30,000 soldiers, of whom overwhelming superiority in numbers. Nobuhado sent a messenger and go to Morinobu to urge him to surrender. Morinobu refused, cut off the messenger's ear, and drove him away. When Lord II, the two armies clashed, Morinobu made a desperate struggle against the Oda army, and all-out attack, but he and about 500 of his vassals died in the battle or committed suicide. On March 11th, Katsuyori and his group were finally caught up with the Oda army at the foot of Mount Tenobu-moku and fought back to the end. Masato Tosono Teshaishi and Tomohari Tamoyoyama died at the battle after a fierce battle. This was to buy time for Katsuri and his friends to commit suicide. Then around 11 a.m., Katsuri committed suicide, along with his eldest son, Nobukutasu, and his legal wife, Miss Hojo. He was 37 years old when he passed away. After being sent to Koto by Katsuyori and his son, he was exposed at the Rakocho riverside. Other members of the Takeda clan also committed suicide or were executed by the Oda army. This is how the Takeda clan fell, and former Takeda territory was divided and ruled by Oda Nobunaga's subordinates. And, so you can see the Takeda clan, it wasn't no joke. We definitely had the most drip, but in the end, their infighting and all that, that was the end of them. They had a chance at the throne, but infighting and who was in charge and all this, all of them got destroyed, were defected. But the Takeda family is still around. I believe that I read there's about 300,000 of them still, so And Part 5. Treachery. Never overlook a fool. Everything seemed great in looking up for Lord Nobunaga and Yasuke as well. Again, the priest wrote that the word around was Yasuke was to be made a lord. All gossip cannot always be disregarded. If word of this got back to the priest, one Yasuke may have also made an impression in battle. The lord would not promote a simple large servant to the lord status unless Yasuke proved himself in battle. Again, he must have fought in battles, and well for the lord. But this was soon to come to an end, as an underling was to usurp power and betray the lord. Akechi Mitsuhide, 1528 to 1582. Akechi Mitsuhide was a samurai and general who lived during the Sengoku period. He is best known for his betrayal of Oda Nobunaga, which led to Nobunaga's death at the Hononoji incident. Here is an overview of Mitsuhide's life and the context surrounding the betrayal of Nobunaga. Akechi Mitsuhide was born in 1528 in Minoa Province. He served various lords before entering service of Lord Oda Nobunaga, one of the most powerful daimyo of the time. Mitsuhide quickly rose through the ranks due to his skills and loyalty. Mitsuhide played a crucial role in many of Nobunaga's campaigns, including the siege of Inhambayame Castle and the Battle of Nakashino. He was also instrumental in Nobunaga's efforts to centralize power in Japan. A betrayal. Mitsuhide's reasons for betraying Lord Nobunaga are unclear, but several theories exist. Some historians believe Mitsuhide felt humiliated by Nobunaga's harsh treatment and insults which damaged his pride and honor. Another theory suggests that Mitsuhide saw an opportunity to seize power for himself or was motivated by personal grievances and ambition. Additionally, some speculate that Mitsuhide might have been influenced by another political and military figure who were opposed to Nobunaga's dominance. The incident at Hononoji. On June 21, 1582, Akechi Mitsuhide launched a surprise attack at Oda Nobunaga, who was sitting at the Hononoji Temple in Kyoto. Nobunaga was caught off guard and, realizing that escape was impossible, committed seppuku to avoid capture. Mitsuhide's forces then moved to secure control of Kyoto and consolidate power. However, Mitsuhide's hold on power was short-lived. Just 13 days after the betrayal, he was defeated by Toyotomi Hideyoshi, another of Nobunaga's top generals, at the Battle of Yamazaki. Mitsuhide was killed while attempting to flee. The incident at Hononoji marked a significant turning point in the Sengoku period, leading to Toyotomi Hideyoshi's rise to power and eventual unification of Japan. And so there is a story that Lord Nobunaga was at Akechi's house or somewhere, and Akechi was feeding his food to Lord Nobunaga, or his wife was feeding Lord Nobunaga, and allegedly Lord Nobunaga got up and dumped the food in the bushes and stamped it out. I don't know if it's legend or true, but there was some evidence of mistreatment by Akechi to Akechi, so this may have been the reason that he turned on his lord. Thomas Lockley stated, according to Oda family oral tradition, Yasuke was the one who carried Nobunaga's head to his son after Ranmaru helped his lord commit seppuku. So, Yasuke was guarding his lord at a spiritual temple. There's maybe a couple hundred men, 200-300 men, 400 men, and they look up at its 10,000-13,000 soldiers. There was no way they were getting out of this. It states that the Lord fought well with bow and spear, so Lord Nobunaga was slicing cats before he went down and popping them with the bow. But those 300, 400 were surrounded quickly, and eventually he retired to his inner chambers to commit suicide. Mori Ranmaru. From an early age, Ranmaru was an attendant to Oda Nobunaga, recognized for his talent and loyalty. He was appointed to a responsible post at Omi. He was given 500 koku, and after Takeda Katsuri's death, he was awarded the 50,000 kokoku at Imawari Castle. Ranmaru and his younger brothers defended Oda Nobunaga during the Hononoji incident, allowed him to commit seppuku. Ranmaru and the rest of his retainers ignited the temple, in which they had barricaded themselves. The fire chilled everyone inside and burned the body of the Oda, therefore preventing his capture. In Nashoku literature of the Edo period, it was commonly depicted that Oda and Mori had a sexual relationship. It was commonly found in those times. So, it seems logical that the Lord's lover Ranmaru was the one who helped the Lord commit seppuku. He was the most intimate with the Lord, so yeah. Then also, the other guards and his brothers most likely aided Yasuke's escape with the Lord's head to get to his son and warn him and not have his head taken alive. Really quick on Ranmaru. There is some speculation that Memorial, I think it came in Lord's service at like 13, 14, or 15. So there is some talk about that behind the scenes. Whatever. You know, it's a different time or not. I'm not sure when exactly this relationship started, but allegedly, there was a homosexual relationship with the young man and the Lord. Yeah. The practice of collecting heads in Japan. Head collecting has a long history in Japan, and in its most basic form can be seen as proof of the job well done, proof that the kill or kills have been made. For the most important of heads, those of senior samurai or lords, protocol was strict and always observed if there was time. Of course, in the heat of battle, that was not always possible. In Korea during the invasions of the 1590s, the samurai led tried their best to collect heads, but the sheer number of kills and the distance to carry them back to Japan, not mention logistical problems, and getting them through a hostile country meant a nose or ear head to suffice. Nobunaga's head. There is no evidence for Yasuke having taken Nobunaga's head, however, Oda family lore has it so. Yasuke's memory does live on in the families that were most closely associated with him. Another story has him associated with a supposed death mask made for Nobunaga, but this is highly unlikely. Nobunaga's legend, Oda Nobunaga, is one of the most popular figures in Japanese history. Enter any bookshop in Japan or on many street corners and in most train stations of any size, and you will find a book about him, either fact or fiction, probably both. It's open to question why he enjoys such popularity, but his decisiveness, ruthlessness, and charisma were always cited. Was Yasuke a coward? This question has been proposed. The bodyguard let his lord get killed. That's what they're saying. A few things on this matter. Firstly, Nobunaga had only a few hundred men. He did not expect to be betrayed. How was he to defend his lord from an army of thousands? I'm not sure. Nor would the lord risk being captured himself as they tried to escape. As it states, Nobunaga struggled with spear and bow. And those few hundred did what they could, and the lord that bloody himself with the spear. But he had to face the facts. It was over. A man he considered a fool had ended him. Secondly, on the escape, Yasuke could have rowed for the coast and got out of there. But he didn't. He returned to his lord's son as ordered, with his lord's head. And lastly, as the priest wrote, Yasuke there fought hard. In the coffer that Alessandro Zolicanano gave to Nobunaga on his request after his death, went to the mansion of his heir and flocked there for a long time. But when one of Ikexi's vassals got close and asked him to give up his sword, he handed it over. The vassals went and asked Nikiche what to do with the coffer. He said the coffer is like an animal and knows nothing, as he's not Japanese, so don't kill him, and give him to the church of the Indian padre or priest. With this, we were a bit relieved. Now my thoughts on this. Firstly, it shows the fighting Yasuke did. It also shows Yasuke was asked to stop fighting. This shows he must have been fighting hard and then had some sort of change of mind, because he didn't want to die. Maybe? I don't think so. He couldn't know what it meant if he was captured. So, being raised a soldier, it's most likely that he knew that he would die. What most likely happened was there were women, children, and old people in that temple that would have died too. And he may have been given the option to spare their lives, to put down his own sword. Of course, also in this line, there's Akichi's blatant racism. This was probably told to him about Africans by the priest. Akichi had never seen an African before and knew nothing about black people, so where would he learn any of this at? Most people in Japan were coming to see Yasuke. The records show this, and they were happy to see him. So this would imply even more so that the priesthood were not happy about this black man rising above them and doing well. This may also be the reason he returned Yasuke to the priest. The worst punishment for a former slave is not death, it's to be returned to your master. So it's more than likely that the priests were upset about Yasuke's rise, and they even got in Akichi's ear at some point, or he had asked the priest about him, this black man, where does he come from, what is he really an Oni? Told him, hey, they were slaves, they were slave rights, you know what it is. Especially in the 1500s, they had defeated us and just really started to get into it, attacking Africa from all sides. So the priest definitely thought lowly of them, calling them Kafir slaves. So this is most likely where he got it from, and after they defeated him, that was the worst thing ever, is returning Yasuke to his former masters. Was that the end of the African samurai? We don't really know. We don't know what happens next after that. But there is some evidence. Toyotomi Hideyoshi. Toyotomi Hideyoshi was born in 1537 in Makamuri. His origins are unclear, but he was born into a family of fathers, farmers, and low-class samurai, and his childhood name was Ishishimaru, and it is said that Ishishimaru, who lost his biological father at an early age, had trouble getting along with his stepfather, so he ran away from home and traveled across the country engaging in banditry and peddling. As a young man, Hideyoshi took the name Takokochari Kinsoshita and served Matsutoshika Kaihi, a vassal of the Mangawe family who ruled the Tokado region, but he soon left the Matsushita family as well. And as youth, Hideyoshi spent his time wandering all over the place regarding the actual childhood of Tomotomi Hideyoshi. What is written in the Ikun Takakoki and the Takoi Mosiki, written in the Edo period, has been widely transmitted, and details such as his house and place of birth have not accurately been transmitted. He served Oda Nobunaga, who ruled part of Awari province, and as a servant, Hideyoshi, who stood out as a hard worker, distinguished himself through projects such as construction of Kyosu Castle. A famous anecdote from this time is the story of removing sandals. The story goes that Hideyoshi, who was collecting Nobunaga's sandals, warmed Nobunaga's sandals in his pocket on a winter day and took them out when Nobunaga put on his sandals. Nobunaga learned of Hideyoshi's loyalty to his master and collected Hideyoshi. In April 1570, the Oda family marched into Ichin province to subjugate Asakura family, and Tokugawa joined the army. However, when they made it to Kangaski, they were betrayed by the Asa family, who had been in alliance with them, and were attacked from behind. Hideyoshi served as one of the Lord's troops and achieved great results. After this, the Oda family captured Yokoyama Castle in northern Ome province and left Koshihide Hideyoshi in charge of the castle. In the third year of Jinkai, 1572, Tokugawa changed his surname to Hashiba Sei and called himself Hashiba Hideyoshi, in order to follow Niwai Nakahide and Shibata Katatsui, who were senior vassals of the Oda family. In 1577, Oda Nobunaga ordered Yashiba Hideyoshi to conquer the Chokokoi region. Hideyoshi steadily rose through the ranks and by this time had emerged as a powerful general of the Oda family. In 1582, Hashiba Hideyoshi invaded Bichu. Bichu Takamatsu castle was surrounded and flooded with water. In response, the Mori family, a major force in the Choku region, came out to support them. Hideyoshi and the Mori family faced off against each other. Hideyoshi requested reinforcements from his lord, Oda Nobunaga. Oda Nobunaga sent his soldiers fighting in various places to the Chokoshu region and himself advanced to Kyoto. However, in June 2, 1582, Oda Nobunaga was attacked by his vassal Ije Masahude at Honnonoji Temple in Kyoto and committed suicide. The story of his master committed suicide in Kyoto reached Hideyoshi. After hearing the story, Hideyoshi immediately made peace with the Mori family, and immediately after making peace, he withdrew his army and returned to Kyoto. The Honnonoji incident occurred in Kyoto on June 2nd, and about 10 days later, on June 13th, he confronted Mitsuhide Ikiche at Yamazaki. Hideyoshi's march, which covered 230 kilometers in 10 days, was called the Great Return of China. Ikiche Mitsuhide, who defeated Oda Nobunaga, also did not think Hideyoshi would return so soon. Ikiche Mitsuhide fought against Hideyoshi and was defeated, and Mitsuhide died in a hunt for fallen warriors. On June 27th, about 10 days after the Battle of Hamazaki, where Ikiche Mitsuhide was defeated, a meeting was held at Kyoto Castle to discuss the future of the Oda family. Here, Nobunaga's successor was chosen by Hideyoshi Hashiba, his grandson Shinboshi, the eldest son of Nobunaga, and the eldest son of Nobutade Odo, who had died in the Honnonoji incident. In 1584, Hashiba Hideyoshi was in conflict with Oda Nobu. Oda Nobunaga's second son, Nobu sought support for Tokugawa's Ieyasu, who became a major force in the Tokugawa region, and also sought support from the Kokoshbi clan and Shikoku, Mekara and Sakai clan in Kishu, deepening the conflict. Hideyoshi maintained the upper hand in the situation and began to end. Hideyoshi maintained the upper hand in the situation from the beginning to the end, but was defeated by the Tokugawa Ieyasu band in the Battle of Komakai, and the situation came to a stalemate. In order to resolve the situation, he made peace with Nobu. Odo, who had been at odds with him from the first, and later made peace with the Tokugawa family, and Isshin Tokugawa also came under Hideyoshi Hashiba in 1586. Hashiba Hideyoshi was given the surname Toyotomi by the imperial court and began to call himself Toyotomi Hideyoshi. In the previous year, he had also reached the highest level of personal status, serving as Kenpaku, the highest rank among the port nobles at this time. Toyotomi Hideyoshi unified all of Japan and conquered Shikoku in 1585, Kyushu in 1587, and conquered Odawara in 1590. And in conclusion, there is a tale that there was a man of coal-skinned complexion who was at the Battle of Yamazaki for Hideyoshi's revenge. If this is true, there is only one man in Japan in that area with coal-colored skin. This would mean Hideyoshi came and saved Yasuke from the Jesuits. Thomas Lockley also states Hideyoshi on 2 occasions asked Africans to sing and dance for him. Perhaps Yasuke used to sing and dance, but seeing no more of Yasuke in the record, it is most likely after returning to avenge his lord manning the cannon, which may have been due to his injuries, perhaps even received from the priest. He left, possibly even back to Africa, where he blended in finally. Regardless, this story isn't just about some black eye or culture stealing. It's about classism, caste systems, racism, constant infighting, mistreatment, and betrayal, and the unification of Japan. There just happens to be a black man in the background of all of this. Yasuke, like Hideyoshi, came from the bottom and rose to the top, not letting the caste system in their way. Hideyoshi, a peasant, rose to become Emperor of Japan, through hard work dedication, and loyalty. He let nothing stop him in life. He only should have stopped early instead of going for Korea. He took revenge for his lord instead of caring just for himself, and possibly even saved the black man from a life of horror at the Jesuit priest. There was also a possibility that Yasuke stayed with the priests, and they were kind to him. Or Villianan, it was simply let him go to get revenge for his lord. It is also possible that deep down the Japanese saw this man as an oni or a demon, and on some deeper level didn't want the curse of his death upon them. Regardless, this man lived, and this black man rose to the sky through hard work, dedication, and he should be remembered as one of our ancestors. Let me read something from Thomas Lockley again about Hideyoshi. An episode from a decade later may also give a clue to Villianana's feelings toward the situation he found himself in when Nobunaga expressed interest in Yasuke. Nobunaga's successor, Hideyoshi, had been mostly generous with the Jesuits, partly because he hoped for their help with obtaining 2 Portuguese warships. One day he paid them a visit, a singular honor, and on the huge galley that the Jesuits had built to defend Nagasaki and to transport themselves in style around the country, Hideyoshi expressed great interest in the galley, an implication being that he wanted one for himself, but the Jesuits declined to simply give it to him and foolishly tried to bargain some extra land for it. Hideyoshi did not react with an outward rage. He appeared to simply forget about the galley. However, mere days later, he banned the Jesuits from propagating and forbade lords to force their vassals to convert, naming Christianity a great evil for Japan. This was the first step on the path to eventual Jesuit expulsion and wider Catholic persecution. End. So, Hideyoshi eventually turned up on the Jesuits and the Catholics all in Japan. Around this time, there was around 300,000 Christians in Japan. I think around today it's 1 to 2%. Why is that? That is because of Hideyoshi Toyotomi. There's something called the 26 Martyrs of Japan. Basically, he ended Christianity in Japan, and he crucified and murdered all of the Jesuits around and forbade Christianity. Now, he didn't just go on a white people killing spree, no. He was aiming at the Catholics and the priests. Why is this? Just because he was against Christianity, he didn't like Jesus? No. Possibly, did Yasuke have a talk with him about those Jesuits and just exactly what they are doing? Remember, the Japanese were being slave traded at this time as well, by the Portuguese, by the Jesuits. So that doubly pissed Hideyoshi off. Instead of sitting around crying, being scared about these Jesuits who have multiple large ships with cannons all over that he doesn't have, he went down there and handled that business. He ended all that mess, all their power base and Japan, everything. He crushed it. He crushed it. He was not playing around. That's the reason Japan doesn't have this problem today that black people all over the world have. Somebody does something wrong to us and we say, oh, let's forgive them, forgive them, forgive them, forgive them, forgive them. I'm about forgiveness, but I'm about Ubuntu first. See, when you think it's a game and you keep playing me and playing me and playing me like I'm some type of joke, no. And that's the lesson that we got to take from all of this. We don't need to culture vulture anybody. There's enough vultures against our own culture. But we should take the positive of everyone's culture where we see fit and blend them to our own. Yes, the Japanese were infighting and it was a lot of barbaric behavior, but everybody wanted to do one thing, one plan. They wanted to unify Japan. It's just who was going to be the leader, but everybody, after Nobunaga died and his son died, Hideyoshi still stuck with the plan to unify Japan. They had a plan. See, we don't have a plan, and we lost our honor system, and we need to get back to that. And a lot of people's heads might have to get chopped clean off. So never let them talk about our ancestors and say that we were mindless beasts. Our ancestor Yasuke, he could have ran away like a coward. He did what his lord asked him to do. He took his head to his son, and then he defended his son. He defended his life. Most of us, we don't got nothing to give our lives for. We've got unworthy leaders all around us. Our chief and kings are some of the worst people. People in our churches are some of the worst people. We have unhonorable men everywhere. But when you have honorable men who are for a plan and take care of the people will willingly die for you. That's something that we got to get to. And we are going to get to. Remember our ancestors. Remember our allies like Toyotomi Hideyoshi. I remember our ancestor Yasuke, who gave his life for an honorable lord, who was ready to give his life at the drop of a hat for his lord. Remember the ancestors.